Thank you for coming, everyone. This morning, Chief Myron Demkiw is joined by Superintendent Ron Taverner, Unit Commander of 23 Division, to announce the results of Project Thoroughbred, an auto theft and re-vinning investigation. Councillor Josh Matlow of Ward 12 will also be in attendance to speak about his motion to combat auto theft. Following the remarks, the speakers will take questions. Chief?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm pleased to update you on the success of Project Thoroughbred, our latest initiative led by 23 and 31 Division auto suppression units to combat auto theft in Toronto. We are also joined today by Councillor Josh Matlow of Ward 12, who has expressed his concern about the ongoing issue of auto thefts in our city, and will speak about the motion he has put forward to help address it. This project builds on the achievements of our previous operation, Project Stallion, which recovered over 1,000 vehicles and led to nearly 230 arrests. Project Thoroughbred is advancing that work with a particular focus on dismantling auto theft rings involved in fraudulent vehicle identification numbers and chop shops where stolen vehicles are cut up into smaller parts and prepared for international shipment. Since July 2024, Project Thoroughbred has led to 59 arrests and over 300 charges, including many counts of forgery and possession of stolen property. Warrants have also been issued for the arrest of more than a dozen people. More than 360 stolen vehicles have been recovered, and numerous fraudulent VINs have been identified. While Superintendent Taverner will provide additional details shortly, I can say that these arrests and recoveries represent only a part of our commitment to reducing auto theft in Toronto. Project Thoroughbred exemplifies our dedication to combating the persistent issue of auto thefts in our city. It also underscores the vital cooperation and collaboration among various stakeholders, including the Ministry of Transportation, Equite Association, the Canada Border Service Agency, York, Durham Regional Police, and Montreal Police Services, and the Ontario Provincial Police, in addressing a problem that significantly impacts the safety and security of our communities. Criminal Intelligence Service Ontario, through funding provided by the Government of Ontario, also supported Project Thoroughbred. It is just one of many strategic and intelligence-led initiatives that our service has undertaken to tackle this problem. This includes the Provincial Carjacking Task Force, our Organized Crime Investigative Support Unit, and other joint forces operations that law enforcement agencies are collaborating on regionally, provincially, and nationally. While auto thefts in Toronto have declined by 21% compared to this time in 2023, the problem persists, particularly as it relates to carjackings. This is why we are committed to continuing our partnership with government and law enforcement agencies to enhance our enforcement efforts and protect our residents. We remain committed to our collaborative efforts to drive down auto thefts and enhance public safety. My thanks go out to Superintendents Taverner and Mann and the 23 and 31 Division auto suppression units for their continued dedication to this work. I'll now turn it over to Superintendent Taverner to discuss the details of Project Thoroughbred.
Good morning, and thank you, Chief, for your remarks. As you've heard, Project Thoroughbred is an ongoing investigation that began in July of this year. And it's to continue our work in curtailing the epidemic of auto thefts, particularly in the northwest end of the city. To date, we've recovered 363 stolen vehicles valued at over $14 million. Through collaborative efforts, Toronto Police Service, the Ministry of Transportation, Equite Association, police have uncovered a scheme involving registrations of phony VIN numbers, vehicle identification numbers, by employees of Service Ontario location. These fraudulent VINs were used to sell stolen vehicles to unsuspecting buyers at a significant discount. Service Ontario employees are alleged to have knowingly used fake documents to provided by the accused to create what would appear to be valid VIN numbers, where they were able to register the vehicles to make them legitimate to obtain license plate numbers. These vehicles were sold as legitimate vehicles with the proper plate identification. This investigation has uncovered three elements: the registration of phony VIN numbers of stolen vehicles, the dismantling of stolen vehicles to local chop shops, and the overseas shipment of vehicles with fraudulent VINs. And just to add to the chop shop part of this investigation, in one particular chop shop that we executed a search warrant on one particular day, the day before, Toyota Tundra was stolen, and the next day I can show you what the results of that stolen Tundra actually looked like when the search warrant was executed. And as you can see, dismantled in a very short time. So with the support of Canada Border Services, York Regional Police, Durham Regional Police, the OPP, Montreal Police Service, and the Ontario Provincial Police, we have identified and flagged more than 100 falsely registered plates, and the VINs in police investigative, they've been placed in the VINs have been placed in the police databases. Using this information, police have seized 40 of these stolen vehicles with phony VINs. 7 more were located in Toronto area using the automated plate reading system. And 8 more were found in some of the chop shops that we executed search warrants in. And these vehicles, as you will see behind us, were in various stages of being cut up and wrapped up to be shipped off to overseas locations. And these chop shops are located in various locations across the city. And we've undertaken to address all of these chop shops. We're working continuously to identify more of these locations. And as you can imagine, this is a very lucrative market for these stolen vehicles and stolen parts. They offer high rewards financially with minimum risk. These chop shops, as I've indicated, can chop a car up in a very, very short period of time. And as you can see, the results are unbelievable when you look at what these vehicles look like at the end. So additionally, we've located stolen vehicles in sea containers in Gambia and one in Belgium. The vehicles that are in the Belgium location, they're on their way back to Canada as a result of this investigation. The problem of widespread auto theft continues. The reinforcing of the cycle of thefts and the export demand for high cars and part of the overseas significant problems make it difficult for investigators to keep on top of these things. The positive results is due to dedicated work of our members along with our partner agencies. And I have to thank the officers from 31 Division and the officers from 23 Division who put significant resources and time and effort into making this successful to this date. This project is not over. We will continue with Project Thoroughbred, and we expect many more arrests and recoveries of vehicles. And thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Councillor Josh Matlow with his remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to begin by expressing our city's gratitude to Chief Demkiw and Superintendent Taverner, along with their entire team with the Toronto Police Service, for their dedicated and tireless work on Project Thoroughbred to finally put the brakes on auto theft in our city. Without their work and the support of our provincial counterparts and the federal government, Project Thoroughbred would not be where it is today. And as we continue to dismantle the criminal operations behind this national crisis that's affecting neighborhoods in Toronto, but also in cities throughout our country, we need to work in tandem to make sure that our neighborhoods are truly safe. Now, I hear from residents in the area that I represent, but also throughout our city all the time, who are worried about what they're going to find when they wake up in the morning, whether their car is still going to be in front of their home, and God forbid, if their home might be invaded by criminals who are looking for a way to steal their car. And that's why I brought a motion to Toronto City Council, which I'm grateful was supported unanimously by every councillor, to make requests of the higher orders of government to work together as a team to achieve the results for our residents in Toronto and throughout our country. One of the things we're asking the federal government for is to upgrade the standards and expectations, working with both the auto and tech sectors, to mitigate and try to prevent criminals from being able to not only steal cars in the first place, but then sell them on the black market. Imagine if there was actually identifiers on every single part of every one of these cars to make it more difficult to sell them on the black market without a unique fingerprint on them to know where they came from. We want to make sure that the government understands that it's a priority for Torontonians, that they expedite the screening of these parts and vehicles that are leaving our country. Canada has historically been very good at screening what comes into Canada, but we need to do better at the Port of Montreal and beyond to make sure that cars and their parts can't leave and go to Belgium and other countries without being stopped in the first place. Let's make it difficult, if not impossible, for criminals to do what they're doing. We also need our partner with the provincial government to continue their efforts to focus on the Re-Vinning problem. VINs are essentially unique fingerprints that every car has. That's how we know where they're from and who owns them. And it shouldn't be possible for any member of the public, anyone, to be able to register and see these cars lose their unique identities. It should be exclusive to licensed dealers, of course, some individuals who have power of attorney for others. Ultimately, there are too many people in our city who are asking, what can our local governments and our local police do? We can do a lot of work together, but we can't do it alone. And that's why working together with the provincial government and the federal government, while yes, criminals need to be arrested, the more that we make it difficult, if not impossible, for cars to be stolen in the first place, the more that we're protecting our residents. I don't want anyone ever again to go to bed worried about the safety of their family or if they're going to lose their car. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing supporting our local Toronto Police Service as they're doing their work to protect our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The speakers will now take your questions. We do have a microphone for the questions. Please identify who you are and what news agency you're from.
Hi, Janice Golding, CTV News. Can someone explain to us, you're talking about these chop shops, and I'm looking at these cars that have been literally cut in half. Is this how they're sent overseas? I'm very confused. Like, do they reassemble them there? Forgive me, I don't know very much about vehicles. So why do they cut them in pieces like this? Like, what is the purpose of this?
Thank you. I couldn't get the complete question there. Could you just
Sorry.
speak up a little bit, please?
Okay, I talked too fast. Apologies. Why do they cut these vehicles in half? I mean, I've never seen this. Are they sending them overseas like this and then reassembling them, or are they sending them for the parts? Look, why cut them up like this? I'm very confused. I don't know cars, so I want an explanation as to what this is all about.
It's a very good question. Thank you. So, to your point, both of those things are happening. They're being cut up as you see. Some of them were wrapped up ready to be shipped in shipping containers overseas, and it would be very difficult for them to reassemble these cars, as you see, just to make them safe, for example. So most of them are going to be sold for parts, because there are a number of stolen vehicles in these offshore countries that they need parts for, and here they are.
Hi there, Shauna Hunt with City News. The Service Ontario employees, how many employees are allegedly involved in this? And is the Service Ontario part of it, also part of the chop shop? Like, is this one big auto theft ring at work here, or did this investigation sort of unravel a whole bunch of separate things going on?
So there really is three parts to Project Thoroughbred: the Re-Vinning, the chop shops, and the sea containers where stolen vehicles are going. So to your first question, Service Ontario, that investigation is ongoing, and we are working with the Ministry of Transportation, and they have created we'll call it a little fraud unit within the Ministry of Transportation to deal with Service Ontario issues. So that's an active investigation that is ongoing.
Have employees been arrested?
Pardon?
Are employees a part of the arrested? And do you have a breakdown of how many of the arrested are Service Ontario employees?
So as I've said, that investigation is ongoing, and at present we have people that will be arrested.
Okay, so at this point, of the however many 59 people, none of those are employees at Service Ontario?
Not yet.
Okay.
But they will be.
Back in September, you announced a lot of charges for 2 Toronto men who were part of an auto theft ring. And at that time, Re-Vinning was talked about, Service Ontario was talked about, and police had mentioned then that Service Ontario was cooperating. So can you explain to us, like, at what point did you kind of understand or learn that Service Ontario employees were a part of this scheme, and how did you figure that out?
Yes, we received some information regarding Service Ontario employees that were involved in this whole process of the Re-Vinning process, the fake documentations, those sort of things. So that was an ongoing investigation back in September. That was by 53 Division, and we learned about this current investigation subsequent to that.
Hi, another question. The VIN numbers that you're talking about, are these from cars that have just people have gotten rid of? I mean, how are they getting these? You say they're legitimate VIN numbers that they're using on vehicles?
So for the most part, they're creating VIN numbers. There are some that are scrap vehicles or vehicles that have been written off by insurance companies, etc. But for the most part, they're creating their own VIN numbers.
So how does a member of the public buying a used car protect themselves from that?
Well, one of the important things to do is you can buy a vehicle history document from the ministry, and then you have to look at what that is saying, what the color of the vehicle is. Does it match the color of the vehicle history information? Those sorts of things are all very important, and you have to know and make sure that you're aware of who you're buying from. And if a deal looks too good to be true, it probably is. Because as you see these vehicles behind us, they're all Re-Vin vehicles, and they've been sold at substantially lower prices than they would actually be worth. So buyer beware.
This is a question actually for the chief. Chief, I'm sure you heard from Councillor Matlow that City Council recently passed a motion urging the provincial and federal governments to take action in multiple ways. I just wanted to know, in your position, A, are you supportive of the motion, and B, have you had those conversations with those higher orders of government, and where do they stand?
That's a great question. Listen, the one thing I can say is all levels of government have identified this as a concern and continue to work closely with law enforcement in every jurisdiction, including Toronto. So today we have our councillor here with us, but I can tell you our people work closely with the Ministry of Transportation, as well as federally with border services and ministries involved in border security. So this is a multi-level government approach and very much a collaborative approach with all law enforcement, including with the Toronto Police.
Chris Glover, CBC News, and I want to go back to the investigation itself because I'm kind of still curious. How did the alleged criminals here get the cars in the first place? Are we expecting that these were some of the 16-year-old kids who have stolen cars, and we've talked about the carjackings and the rest of it, or were they getting these vehicles in legitimate ways and then re-vinning them? Can you talk about the source of the cars?
So these were all stolen vehicles, the ones that have been re-vinned. And, as I mentioned earlier, there's over 100 that we're aware of in this investigation that have been re-vinned, and each and every one of them have been stolen. And stolen, the major numbers are in Toronto, but certainly from other areas as well. And the vehicles that we've seized, like some of the ones behind us, they've been in the Toronto area where they've been seized, and other parts of Ontario as well.
I just have questions about the chop shops. Whoever is, I guess, you're probably best to answer it. It says the investigation revealed the existence of chop shops across the city. Can you reveal how many chop shops were discovered throughout this investigation?
So we're not really releasing that information right now because this is a current investigation that I'm sure in 3 months from now we'll be back telling you about some other things that have taken place and maybe some more that we can show.
And just to follow up to that, how do chop shops work? What are the locations like? Are they warehouses? Just what does a chop shop look like?
Yes, they're typically warehouses where a vehicle will be brought into the warehouse and chopped, like you see and like the photo that I showed, in a very short period of time. So again, that makes it very difficult for us when they're quickly dismantled within a day or two and then shipped off to other locations.
Hey, this one is for the councillor, actually. I'm just curious about, we talked about the motion to kind of urge the federal and provincial governments to take the action that you talked about. Is there anything else that the city can do to try to crack down on this from your perspective?
Yeah, I was asked that earlier this morning. The reality of the City of Toronto is that while we are equipped to pass various bylaws, we don't create new legislation. We don't have the ability to screen our national ports. But we can do is play a meaningful advocacy role at the table and focus and identify priorities while supporting our local police on the good work that they're doing to achieve results. And that's why I'm here supporting our Toronto Police, our Chief Superintendent Taverner, along with calling for the tools that they need to be more successful. They're both reacting obviously to the criminal activity, but they also want to get ahead of it. Obviously, the more difficult, if not impossible, it becomes for this criminal activity to occur in the first place, the easier the job will be for our police and the safer our residents will be. So what I'm hearing from residents in Midtown Toronto, but throughout our city, is that this has become, and Ron mentioned it he described it very well, it's an epidemic, it's a crisis. We've never seen an uptick like this, certainly in my lifetime, where so many people are going to bed every night in fear of their vehicle being stolen or their home being broken into just outside of where their kids sleep. And that's not acceptable. More and more people are taking actions upon themselves, including some neighborhoods where they have the means or even hiring private security. which is an unreasonable expectation for them to have to consider. So what I'm doing is highlighting this as a priority, and I'm very happy to say that my colleagues understand that it is too, and we're going to continue supporting the exemplary work of the Toronto Police Service, but we also know that they can't do it alone. It needs to be a national initiative.
Just, we'd invite the media, if they wanted to go up and go around, there's some more displays at the back of the room there, if they want to take some photos, or if they want to take a photo of this particular vehicle that was dismantled and chopped, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you everyone for coming.